earliest podcast so far. And today, coming from Singapore with us is Honey Mittal, who is co-founder, CEO, and CPO of Locofy.ai, which is a really, really cool low-code platform that bridges the gap between design and development. So Honey, it's great to see you here. How are you today? And welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Anna, and good evening from Singapore. Yeah, just heading into the weekend and really looking forward to having a chat.
Perfect. Well, I did just a tiny introduction, but maybe you can give us a bit more about your background and know that you were actually a serial entrepreneur. So you've had a few very successful businesses before. So how did you come to Locofy?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a mixed bag. Quite frankly, my first two startups were bootstrapped, part-time. I was basically a young, fresh grad. I like to build mobile apps, and then I started caring about the problems. And initially, those problems were not really big problems. They were mostly based on my hobbies or based on my personal sort of problems. And over time, I moved into 3 startups, which did well. My role was always as a chief product officer. I think this is the first time I'm doing a startup where I'm a lot more confident, not just about building a great product, but also have some knowledge and wisdom from some of the best entrepreneurs, mentored by some of the best entrepreneurs. Yeah. But a brief background is I'm from India, but I've been in Singapore for half my life. So I came here to study in Singapore. And when I graduated, I was kind of building mobile apps even before the App Store was a thing. Initially, I built a taxi sharing app because I was too lazy to take the train to work. And I realized that it was not sustainable to take a taxi every day. I built a taxi sharing app and learned about the challenges of scaling a two-sided platform like that. Then I built a sports platform because I was a sports fan. To help sports fans figure out where to watch matches during the World Cups and weekend sort of EPLs and crickets and all those sports in Singapore. Ended up doing well, but also learned how difficult it was to monetize, and that's where I kind of decided that while I knew how to build products, there was a lot I had to learn, and the best way of kind of learning how to build a company is to do it by observing some of the best entrepreneurs out there. And that's where I moved into a company called Wego about 8-9 years ago. So Wego is a travel marketplace, fairly well known in the Middle East, but started off in Singapore. And my current co-founder and head of engineering today were the first 2 engineers I hired at Wego. I was a product manager, and they were the 2 engineers. And in 2014, when the whole world, and especially Asia, was figuring out still how to build great mobile products, I think our team did a fairly good job, and we built one of Asia's first editor's choice apps. And that's where we started getting the confidence of building mobile products. We've also built the world's first and fastest progressive web app for travel. This was showcased at Google I/O by some of the Google's top management themselves during the keynotes. From there on, I went into a fintech startup, which I had been advising from the very early days. That company is now more than a unicorn. I also joined them for a short stint as a chief product officer that also became a editor's choice product next to Canva in 2016, 2017. Then came back to Singapore, moved into a health tech company because at that point of time, I started caring about the mission of the company and the kind of problems we're really solving. And Homage was the last company I went to, where really enjoyed building a platform for the elderly caregiving side. And especially during the pandemic, obviously, it was very fulfilling to work in a healthcare startup. Out of 3 of these startups, in 2 of them, my head of engineering was always my current co-founder. So we kind of figured out at a very early stage in Wego that we both worked really well together. And as a product guy and as an engineer, I think you can't do everything yourself. You need a great team. And we realized that when both of us work together, we can have 10x, 100x impact. And we always knew we were going to do something of our own. We just weren't sure about what that problem will be. But I think during the pandemic, as getting engineers and finding engineers became super difficult for the whole world and not just for the West. For example, in India, the engineering costs have tripled, quadrupled in the last 2 to 3 years. We just realized that there's a lot of startups, a lot of founders who are willing to take a risk professionally and solve a problem. There's when it comes to capital, I think things have changed in the last 10 years. There's a lot more VC capital, and across the board, there's a lot more capital available for founders, but the shortages of engineers and builders. And as having built some of the best products out there, we also knew that we wanted to do something eventually that could help the next generation of builders and startups and founders, and also the current generation of engineers to be more productive and to be able to build the next Airbnb or Uber with 1/10 the resources and 1/10 the cost and time. And that's where Locofy was born, because we started looking at the process of building a product and we realized that the going from idea to design is fairly easy. I would say the world is not that crazy. The supply demand curve is not that crazy for designers, but when it comes to developers, that's where things start getting crazy. And going from design to launch, there's obviously front-end engineering and back-end engineering. And we realized that the front-end engineering part of it is something that, based on our experience, we thought was kind of like grunt work for good engineers, and we could potentially automate 80 to 90% of that and let the engineers focus really on the high value, complex logic. And that's where, we thought of Locofy last year, launched it in 6 months with a team of people we had worked with before, raised some money earlier in the year, and did a product hunt launch recently, and things have started kind of like taking off in the last 3 to 6 months, I would say.
That's amazing. I love the story. And, it's only been a year, but honestly, everyone's talking about Locofy. I mean, congrats on being, the product of the day, the week, the month. And, I'm sure you're still getting a lot of traction from product hunts. And, I want to come back to that. But what is the, could you walk me through the process on Locofy? So, for example, I'm not a tech person. Would I be able to use it? Like, what kind of code do I get in the end? Am I giving it to my developer, or I don't know, am I able to embed it into some kind of landing page that I already have? So what's the story there?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we decided to build Locofy for a very technical crowd, for engineers. And the idea over there was very simple, that, having built some of the, some engineering and product teams in Asia in 3 startups, we knew, and, as builders ourselves, we knew that for good engineers and designers, they don't necessarily jump from one tool to the other easily. Ask a designer who loves Figma to move to Sketch, and they will threaten you to quit. Same for engineers, right? Like if it's a React enthusiast and you ask them to build on Polymer, which I made the mistake of doing 5-6 years ago, that's also not ideal. Engineers and designers know exactly what they want. But between that process of, completing designs and handing over the designs to the engineers and then writing front-end code from scratch, there was already an area that we had experience in, which is basically there was a lot of back and forth between designers and engineers to get the pixels right. What the designers design versus what an engineer finally sees and builds in the product may not necessarily match. And also writing front-end code from scratch was one area that we kind of wanted to solve for. So initially, our idea was to build for engineers, and to use Locofy, you would need to obviously know designs and engineering. But instead of getting you out of your existing tools, our idea was also to adapt and fit into your existing tools. If you use Figma for designs, we would be a plugin within Figma. So think of it as an additional toolbox within Figma, which you can use after you're done designing or even during your design phase itself. Wow. And once you're done with your designs, the process that would take engineers, let's say, a few weeks or even months to write the front-end code from scratch, the engineer or the designer could basically do a couple of things just through a visual interface to convert that design into code. And then our platform actually gives you the code export. So because the output is actually front-end code, the understanding was that, it would be engineers who would take that code and then build on top of that. And the process of Locofying could be done by the designer or the engineer in the team. We made it such that it's technically, of course, engineers know how to do it, but then we also wanted to make it easy enough for designers to be able to do it as well. However, once we built it, we realized that one of the use cases for this was landing pages, for example, or simple websites and products where you want to design on Figma or Adobe or one of your favorite design tools. and then there's not much backend logic itself. For those, we will allow you to straight away launch your website or app directly after locifying your designs. So there is, which is basically more no code, where non-coders or people who have limited, let's say, design and engineering experience can also build their products on Locofy itself. So our focus hasn't changed. Like, we're very much focused on building for our own problems for engineers and designers, which is why our focus is on the quality of code and not just giving you a website that works, but the code that's high performance. It would be written by your own engineers, and it's scalable as well. You don't have to, like, after 2 years, write it again from scratch. The idea was that, and we are, anyway, that's how we, the culture that we've built in the company, that if the platform gives you code, make sure that it's as good as what the engineers would write from scratch or even better. However, by doing so, we're also allowing the no coder sort of audience, right? The people who, there's a lot of like growth managers and founders today who have a little bit of experience, and they're also adventurous to go and learn designs on Figma themselves, right? Like, it's not very difficult to pick it up, especially for landing pages and stuff like that. But then they don't want to use, let's say, a tool like Webflow, where they're limited by the design, for example. So for folks who want to use Figma for design, but then they don't want to code it, and the website or app does not require that much business logic in the first place, that's where we also support the non-engineers to launch their products as well. So we're seeing a lot of students, a lot of designers, a lot of solopreneurs, founders launching their products on Locofy. And even if they require a little bit of code, they still prefer that because they can control the stack, the designs, and then rather than getting an engineer for 3 months, they just need an engineer to come in for, let's say, a couple of weeks to help them launch their product itself. So it really depends on the use case, but I would say we are 90% low code, but we're not closing the doors for no code audience.
Okay, wow, that's a great vision, I think, and it does look amazing. I mean, even your website, I went there and I was like, okay, so I really love it, and I showed it to our team, and yeah, I think they were going to try it too. So it does look very appealing. But yeah, so many questions. Like you said, selling to developers is tricky. It's like, I don't know, selling a magic trick to a magician, right? They know how it's supposed to work, how it's supposed to look, right? So what is the trick here, and how did you approach this crowd? How did you start? Well, not selling to them, obviously, because Locofy is free, right?
Yeah.
But how do you convince them to use it?
Yeah, I think engineers are the toughest crowd to please. We know it because we've ourselves, bought tools and rejected tools in the past, and engineers are not shy when they tell you how bad your product is and why. But the trick is very simple. If you can build a product that engineers like and respect and genuinely can believe that that product makes their lives easy, for which the product has to have legs. The product has to. There's no tricks or there's no hacks over there. You have to build a great product, quite simply. Once you can convince an engineer, the one thing you can know is you also are building the best growth machine possible, because engineers do not respond to ads. You don't just do Google ads or Facebook ads to get engineers to pay attention to you. But if you can convince an engineer that you built a product that genuinely helps them, they will go and tell 10 other engineers about it. And the best part about it is when an engineer recommends something to another engineer, the other engineer won't even question it. They'll just completely blindly trust the other engineer, because good engineers hang out with other engineers and they recommend products to each other and they go and try. We've done that ourselves in the last 10, 15 years, right? Like, as product manager, if I would recommend something to my fellow product managers in Southeast Asia, because of the credibility or reputation we had, they would just blindly go in, like without even doing the assessment, would just start using it. And we wanted to kind of build on top of that existing behavior of referrals, but rather than providing incentives for referral, giving them a product that genuinely helps them. And that's, I think, something that has really helped us since Product Hunt. Because, you mentioned the point about website. It was super important for us, because if you're going to convince designers and engineers that you can build your product using Locofy, then the Locofy product and the Locofy website itself should convince you that we can build ourselves first and foremost. If we can't build a decent website and a decent product ourselves, why can you build a better product using Locofy, and we were very clear about that. And we saw some competitors who'd been in the space, and we were quite frankly shocked by how even the websites did not give us that confidence of, if they can't build their own website, how can you build my website or my product? So the website, building the website was definitely key, and that was, we built that website even before we launched the product, and we sent it to some of our friends and like to our network, and that kind of started going viral even before we launched Locofy. So by the time we launched in early January this year or late December last year, we already had a few hundred people who had signed up. And we started seeing it being shared on like Telegram channels, Twitter, Facebook, which was excellent, which also meant that, we're solving a problem that people generally care for. And the first 6 months, we didn't do much. We just kept talking to these folks and making sure they see the value. There was no point charging those customers or those users or promoting it heavily when the product was half baked. And it's still, to some extent, it's still not fully baked, but it's come a long way in this year. We have been iterating almost like as crazy speed as possible. And that's the culture we've always had, and that's what we always intend to do. We listen to our users, we do fast iterations, but we also have a Slack channel, and a lot of our users appreciate the fact that if they get lost somewhere, they can ask us on Slack, and the entire Locofy team is there to help them almost on a real-time basis. So that, I think the good product plus the good support part really helped. But then I think after Product Hunt, I think things just started like accelerating. So obviously because of Product Hunt, we got like users around the world. I think I mentioned earlier, we have 190 countries, designers and engineers using the product. And Product Hunt was definitely that catalyst. But since then, what has happened is a lot of the days we just wake up and realize there's 1,000 Vietnam engineers who are using a product all of a sudden because someone tweeted about us or someone posted about us on a channel for Vietnamese engineers and hackers with 500,000 engineers on there. Or a Portuguese guy is a designer, entrepreneur, has 100,000 following on YouTube, made a video about us. Or an influencer on TikTok who's a no-coder, posted about us, and 100,000 people had viewed that video in the first 2 to 3 minutes. Of course, after that, we've reached out to some of these influencers and partnered with them as well, just to understand what works, what doesn't work. But what has really helped is essentially the part that I think we are building a great product. It can always go a long way. These kind of products are not just built in a year. Like products like Figma, for example, took 4 to 5 years to come out of the free plan. But at the same time, while we know we have a long way to go, we also know we have convinced the early users that the code quality and what we actually promised, we deliver that. Whatever we don't deliver, we are committed to deliver that with their feedback. And once you can get that entry and convince the best engineers, they will go and tell the whole world. And that has really helped us because we haven't really spent much on any kind of marketing. Whatever marketing it is actually partnerships. And that too, I would say 30% of the tweets or whatever out there are paid partnerships. Everything else is completely random. So we're still at the same time still learning because marketing to engineers and selling to engineers is no joke. No matter how much experience you have, there's a lot of learning.
100% agree. I mean, we're also trying to do that, and I absolutely love everything you just said. I can agree with it. I think it's absolutely impossible to just push a few ads towards developers. They will just ignore it. But it's great that you mentioned support. You said that it's possible to go to Slack and get answers from the team. So how big is the team?
Yeah, initially the team was 7 or 8 of us, including some interns for the initial launch. I think in March, So in March, we raised a round of funding that obviously gave us a little bit more options. And now the team is at 22 of us. Out of 22, 14 plus are engineers. The 2 or 3 are designers, and the rest of us are like product/growth folks who are generally product managers or ex-founders. And I mean, we have no salespeople in the team, and we intend to keep it like that for as long as possible, so that the culture in the team is very much like a builder mindset, designers, entrepreneurs, not restricted to just like one job or the other. So everyone's like very much involved in the building process, talking to our
Right.
customers. Ideas can come from our users, but because we are building for engineers, we often look inwards and ask our own engineers what would really make your life easier, and we then obviously validate that with our users as well. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I like it. But well, just something that I've heard when I talked with a few mentors, a few advisors out there, who's been involved actually in building some really cool products. Is like don't come to developers saying that you're going to make them work faster, or you're going to, I don't know, make them work better or make their life easier. So this only makes them resent you, because it gives a feeling that you don't understand, or you don't appreciate what they're doing already. And you're saying, hey, you can do it better, you can do it faster, right? So what's your take on it? Because I tried
Yeah.
to take a look at the website a little
Yeah.
further, and see those words if you use them.
Yeah.
Are you using them, or are you afraid of
We are.
going into this
No, we are not
space?
afraid. We're not afraid. We're not afraid because I think we take that whole painkiller versus vitamin approach, right? Like if someone's just trying to throw those vitamins at you that you don't necessarily like need, but someone else is trying to convince you you need them, we're going with the painkiller approach. Design to code takes time. It is a fact. We convert designs to code, and if we can do what we're saying we do, we will save you 5 to 10x of your time, or 80% of your time, or 90% of your time. And we have our users who are telling us that on a weekly, bi-weekly basis, because our product gets locked after 3 weeks. And the only way to unlock the product for the free trial is to send feedback. And we ask this question plain blank, like, how much time does it save you? Having said that, I totally understand why, people have reservations. I think when you're telling engineers you can save them X amount of time, you better deliver. Otherwise, they will call
Yeah.
your nonsense and BS, obviously. So I can understand why people say that and take it with caution. I fully understand that. Our approach is very simple. We are very honest and hand on heart. We are trying to solve this problem for ourselves. This is not a problem we are solving for a sales team or a marketing team. We are solving this problem for ourselves before any of our users. We are building Locofy such that we would use it ourselves in building the previous 3 products we built. If we would not use it for building Wego, Finaccel, and Homage in the past, then forget what others have to say. We ourselves will say our product is crap.
Right.
But at the moment, while we know we have a lot of use cases to support, and there are always improvements in a product like this, there's no doubts about it. We know for a fact, for the folks that we can support, or the use cases that we can support very well, we are saving them time. Just yesterday, there's a team from Tennessee, US. It's funny because we're now getting users from places we've never been or would have thought about getting customers. And this gentleman, who's a serial entrepreneur himself, has sold 3 companies before in building a travel marketplace. I think they will come public soon. Just messaged me sometime yesterday, sent me a video on Loom of their entire front end build with Locofy, and said, this would have taken us 3 months. We got it done in 2 weeks. We're not asking them, we're not sending them $50 Starbucks voucher to tell us whether it's actually happening. They're doing it purely out of goodwill, purely because we have been helping them, not just by giving them the tool, but actually we get on calls with them. We train their engineers and designers at times. Sometimes they even share the design file with us and we show them how to do it, and they can then do it themselves. And we also don't expect that answer within like a week or 2. Trying out a product like Locofy will take you some time. Some people just come and try it once, then they go back, tell their team, and then the whole team comes back with an actual project itself rather than a sample project. And then we work with them and we ask them, hey, if you're not doing what we claim we are doing, tell us on our face. We will take it.
Right.
And we wouldn't make these claims. I'm going to actually change the line on the website because we were very conservative about how much time we save. And recently, based on the customer feedback we've gotten and compiled, we feel that we actually saved more time than we actually claimed we did. And that's one of the reasons why we were conservative, because we would rather be conservative and then let the users correct us than the other way around.
That's super cool. I think it's a very sustainable approach. I mean, it does help you and it does help other people. So, you have this continuous support for each other, and that's amazing. And that might be a silly question, but is Locofy website built with Locofy?
Yeah, parts of Locofy website are built with Locofy. So our blogs, our guides are fully built with Locofy. Our website, there were some animation frameworks that we initially planned on building, then we built it ourselves. So we couldn't build the whole of Locofy with Locofy. And that's something we talk about, internally very, very strongly. Like, if we cannot build our own products with Locofy, then let's just completely quit completely, right? And we're not saying that we can do everything with Locofy. Everything that we can do with Locofy, if we are building that for our own products, we use Locofy for it. Absolutely. Dog fooding is a very important part of the project. In fact, for next year, we're going to ask everyone in the team to build their own projects. I think because we've hired serial entrepreneurs ourselves, whether they failed in their previous outings or not doesn't matter, but they have the builder gene. We're going to ask them that from next year onwards, everyone in the team has to build a product with Locofy and share feedback. Basically, that's the only way we can keep ourselves honest.
Oh, wow, that's interesting. Okay, so yeah, it's great that you mentioned that you were fundraising earlier this year, right? And you got $3 million in funding, right? So you are still a very, very young early stage startup. How did you approach it? Did you have to show some traction? Did you only focus on the features? Did you go to investors who only invest in low code?
We didn't go to any investor.
Okay.
We didn't go to any investor. I'm going to be
Let's start
completely
with that.
candid about it, because when it comes to fundraising, so yeah, I can share a little bit. So early last year, I actually told my my co-founder Sohaib, when Sohaib came up with the idea that, hey man, this design to code thing is like complete nonsense. I think I'm going to automate it. And I was like, really? That's great. And that was an initial idea, and that was on a Friday. And I told him on Friday that, hey man, I'm going to take 6 months off. Let's keep on let's go and get some people's feedback on this. I think there's some potential. Also, in the meantime, I'll learn how to do fundraising. And I actually signed up for a course. I think it was with Kaufman Fellows. And I also insisted on one of my friends to join me in my team, so we can learn how to do fundraising and understand not just how to do fundraising, but really understand fundraising from a VC point of view and from a founder's point of view, and how to structure deals, basically. And that weekend, I actually met my mentor. I actually reached out to a few mentors. So I was meeting 3 mentors back to back. One of them is the founder and CEO of Wego.com, which is where Sohaib and I met first. And he obviously has been my personal mentor. And I went to him to talk to him about this. 6 months, I'm going to learn how to do fundraising. I also have been working my ass off for the last 10 years. I don't know how to take a sabbatical. Indians are not very good at taking sabbaticals. Asians generally are not very good at taking sabbaticals. How should I take my next 6 months to work on myself? And his point was look, I know you very well. You already may have an idea. And I told him, yeah, Sohaib and I were talking about this idea. And he said, well, that's not just that's a great opportunity, but I don't know anyone better than you and Sohaib to go and solve this problem. If you do it, I'm going to invest. And I didn't take it seriously. I met my next mentor, and the same thing happened again, and the next mentor the same day. And on that Saturday itself, I got $250,000 of commits. And I called up my co-founder, Sohaib, and I'm like, dude, I think the 6-month break may not happen. On Sunday, I pinged a few people with the intentions of fundraising. And by the end of Sunday, it was about 880 or 900K of commitments. And on Monday, I registered the company straight away. My 6 months break went out of the window, that plan. So that was the initial sort of 1 million. Then a few more people joined. These are generally all founders or mentors that we've had in the past, who both understand the problem as founders and also understand how Sohaib and I are the best fit to solve this problem, at least in our network. And that was the initial 1 million. By the time we launched the product, a lot of VCs started reaching out. I think what helped over there were three things potentially. Number one, the problem set that we're solving for. We don't have to call anyone and convince it's a problem. It's a global problem. It's a huge problem. And anyone who has built a startup, invested in a startup, built a product, designed a product, understands if we can deliver what we say we can deliver on, it is impactful as hell. So we didn't have to like tell anyone, and I think there was a lot of interest in low code space. Second was our credibility. So Habe and I have built products that are out there. Like we don't have to convince anyone we know how to build products. Wego, Credivo, Homage are all out there, and our users have kept us honest through reviews, and the companies are there doing well in their own ways. And number three, I think we did get, in a way, timing wise, we chose to build a company last year because I think it was the best time for someone to start a company, and which meant that there was a lot of interest from investors, especially for experienced founders working on crazy problems. And I think a lot of investors reached out. So we were able to kind of be a bit picky, quite frankly. One of them that we talked to was actually not very well known, but he was an ex-founder turned entrepreneur, turned VC himself. And we obviously saw a lot of comfort in working with someone who was an ex-founder. And we basically decided to take $500,000 from him. He just happened to help me change my mind a little bit. And I also was seeing a lot of really bad ideas and some questionable founders raising a lot of money. And I kind of knew to some extent, or it was at least my gut feel, that this funding climate will change. So you're better off raising when you don't need rather than waiting until the point that you need it, and then the market is screwed up. So at that point of time, like the moment we opened up and reached out to a few VCs and they found out we are actually in the fundraising mode, we got a lot of inbound interest, felt really privileged and really humbled by it, because 6 months before that, I didn't even think I would know how to raise money. And we were able to close around within like 10 days. And what we're very lucky about, I guess, and happy about is that we have investors that we feel we can build long-term relationships with. They've had a track record doing so. We have Accel India, very well known among the founders as long-term partners, and there's enough history over there for you to tap into. Golden Gate Ventures, who I had the privilege of working with before and sharing a boardroom with for 2+ years. January Capital, someone we had been talking to from early days. I don't know how they found out. Every VC these days, they have eyes and ears on the ground.
Yeah.
Even before you have an idea, sometimes somehow they just know. And one such investor was January Capital, and they were nice enough to keep in touch. And of course, Bold Cap, where it all started. So yeah, we were able to do another $2.1 million at that point, along with some angels. And we haven't even gone through the angel money so far. So we have a long runway, and we can kind of sit through this funding winter. Even though the funding winter is not really felt as badly for early stage, we still don't believe in just like raising for the sake of raising. We have enough runway now. We have a product out there. We are building fast. We're taking feedback from our users, and we are iterating fast. That's all we care about. Yeah.
That's great. I think it's an amazing showcase that before you start cold emailing, cold calling investors, you should really reach out to the people that you know, to the people in your network, and that could work the best for you. All right.
Yeah,
and,
I think the experience of building products really helped. I think we had some credibility because 10 years ago I used to go to clubs because I would know that, oh, there's this investor who goes over there and I can find him in the smoking room. I can totally feel for first-time entrepreneurs. I think it can be a little bit, especially this climate right now. As long as you have a problem that is big enough, that painkiller versus vitamin approach, like how badly does one need feel that problem, and how can you convince that you are the people to kind of solve that through either having built products in the past or like why you? I think investors are still going to be interested. Yeah.
Right. So do you think it's like 50-50 investing in the idea and in the person that's doing it?
Early stage investment comes down to sometimes the person even more than the idea. Like I've done some angel investments myself. I've also invested in a couple of funds just to kind of see whether I can make good bets, because I did that as an advisor through my time, and those companies ended up doing well. There are some founders that I backed purely because of the founder, without even caring about the problem. Not that I would fund them for a bad idea, but I know that these founders are smart, and they would not pick up pick up a problem that's not necessarily a big problem in the first place. However, having said that, I think the founder problem market fit, right? Like founder problem fit itself, the founder market fit, and so on. I think these things need, like, they have to be cohesive. If I feel someone from the e-commerce industry is going to solve something in the health tech industry, but they have a like some shared sort of knowledge that can be easily transferred, or this founder has showcased in the past that they can adapt and learn quickly, then so be it. Sometimes it's very experienced people from e-commerce building another e-commerce platform, great problem, but the founders necessarily don't portray that they are the people to solve this. So it's very difficult to answer it. I think VCs are probably in a better spot because they do it for a living. From my point of view, I think it is definitely a combination, unless the founder himself or herself has that weight that the idea doesn't matter anymore.
Right. Okay. And yeah, coming back to Product Hunt. I mean, there are so many materials, resources about it, like how to approach launching a Product Hunt. How did you do it? Was it another, Cinderella story? We just launched and we we got to
kind
the
of
top, or
we didn't. Yeah, we didn't. It was. I think ours was one of those things where I'm still trying to figure out. We know what helped us. Did we plan for all of it? Not necessarily. There was some luck. I think some, just the fact that we built, a problem that people connect with. Product Hunt is a community of builders, right? Designers, engineers, founders, and while a lot of products are I think launched on Product Hunt, not everyone necessarily feels the pain that a solution out there provides or solves for. I think what we're solving for, we knew will catch a lot of attention. We did want to make sure that we don't just like launch over there, or at least the goals for launch should be clear. Are we launching to be the number one? We were not launching to be number one. For us, we just wanted to make sure that after 6 months of working with our initial set of early users, we wanted to open it up to people outside our network and kind of get a reality check of what people really think outside our network. So for us, it was like, even if we get 100 users from Product Hunt, we are doing it to get feedback. And if while doing so, if you're launching, might as well give it the best shot. So our earliest users from the first 6 months, if not everyone's obviously a fan instantly, but the ones that are, we knew them because we were talking to them, and we obviously made sure that we got their support at the point of launch. We did the basics, I think, building a founder video. We didn't hire an agency for that. We did it with a mobile phone in my room. And we didn't have too much time to do that as well. So it was a very quick one. Basically, don't overthink it. Was the scenario over there, or was the thinking over there? We didn't hire a writer to write for us. The founder message over there was very heartfelt, like literally heart to heart, what it really meant for us, and just go and like pretty much bare our souls over there. And obviously make sure the product actually was at the position where we're not like making a mockery of ourselves, basically. It was not like half-baked in that sense. So all of these things helped. I think one of the things that really helped us is our head of growth was supposed to join us like literally 7 days before the launch. And he came in and he amplified some of our efforts, obviously, through reaching out to some of the engineering communities on Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, just making sure that more people knew we were launching. But we didn't want to do it from the approach of like, let's just spam everyone, because Product Hunt is also a place where existing Product Hunt, I think, community have a higher weight, and we wanted to, we could bring like hundreds of thousands of people through our networks, but that doesn't necessarily give us the feedback that we're looking for, right? We can get people to go and upvote, but our goal over there was to get real feedback. So we were kind of okay to be number 3 or number 4 as well. But yeah, we did some smart things, obviously. We made sure that we reached out to our existing communities, existing users, had a great video, put up a nice GIF and nice screenshot, good messaging, clear positioning. We made sure the entire team was awake 24/7, even though we were all down with COVID a couple of days before Product Hunt, because anytime there was a review, anytime there was a spike, we wanted to make sure that we were there in real time, responding, answering to questions from people, and solving issues if there were any issues. And I think in general, yeah, we got some feedback from some of the other founders who passes some of these tips, like, make sure you're there 24/7, make sure you reach out to your existing users. So some of it was just like, it's common sense, quite frankly.
Right.
But at the same time, yeah, the founder community that I've been part of, like, they were super nice, and they also just happened to be product hunt users as well. So their vote really helped. I think in the first 1 hour or so, you can get the first 70, 80 votes through your friends, networks, whatever. After that, it really comes down to the whether you have a great product or not, and are you reaching out to the right audiences, not just for vote, but for real users. And for us, 1,000 upvotes and 3,000, 2,500 to 3,000
Yeah.
users that day proves that we did not reach out to, just for votes. I know a lot of companies say we got 1,000 votes and 200 users. For us, it was a complete opposite. So I think we did some things right over there.
Right. Well, obviously you reached quite a success there. So what was the biggest win so far and the biggest failure for Locofy?
Well, I haven't thought about this. I think biggest win has been just like this time last year, we were scrambling to get our MVP together. And what we eventually launched in December was uh, like an MVP of an MVP. And while we knew we can build this is not one of those products where you just like build a couple of screens and connect an API and done, right? Where it comes down to whether you can actually, like, we've obviously built in marketplaces, and it's less about whether we can build and more about whether we can actually get the two sides of the marketplace and like scale and all those things, which is not just product, but more than product. Over here, it was really about like, we think we can build it, we know we can build it, but can we actually build it?
Yeah.
And will people actually use it? Will people actually say it actually helped them? We had a lot of questions in our mind last year, this time. And by now, a lot of those answers have gone in our favor. We know people want a solution like this. We know, uh, while not all use cases are supported, but the ones that are supported, engineers, designers, and founders are giving us feedback that, hey, this code is better than mine. When someone says something like that, I think it solves that doubt you might have about yourself, whether you can actually build it. Now, the real question is, can we scale it, and can we get it to a point where Locofy is not just like use once in 3 months or use just for a personal project or a side project, but for core products? Because while that is the case which allows people to try Locofy easily, we are building Locofy not just for side projects and like a new website or whatever, new landing page, but for the core products itself. And that will only happen as we talk more and more to companies. We already have a group of people who are retaining heavily, but we want to make sure that we can get it to a point where uh, companies are basically using Locofy day in and day out, month in, month out. They're basically building their products and also changing their roadmaps, factoring in Locofy and being more aggressive on their roadmap with Locofy. So those are things to be solved for next year.
Yeah. Okay. And by the way, how did you come up with the name?
Oh, yeah. So initially, when we thought of the design to code thing, we were kind of naive. We didn't think anyone else had thought of the idea. I think every founder has gone through that. Initially, we thought, oh, great, no one has thought of design to code. It's so crazy. It's like a crazy idea. If you can do it well, it'll be crazy. Like, and then when we raised like $1 million or so in like a weekend, everything was just so crazy, like unexpected and crazy, that we kept on saying the word crazy, crazy, and
Yeah.
that's where. And we were talking about low code, and it kind of, at some point, it hit us that the short form for low code, which is loco, means crazy, and we were like, that has a good name to it, good sound to it, but loco.ai was not available. We kind of like really like loco. We were like, hey, you know what? We'll call it ourselves locos, which we do now. And it's one of those things that even our community can kind of connect to in a way. So all of those things match, but then we couldn't find loco.ai. So we said, we can go down the approach of like Shopify and make it into a verb. And that's why the Locofy kind of came in. Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. All right. So can you tell me what would be your best advice to the first-time founder?
First-time founder, I think, while I think Yeah, I think the why is super important. Why are you doing it? Why are you taking this path where you could be getting paid 2x, 3x, working much lesser, getting a mentor who can teach you rather than let circumstances teach you. If you're not sure about the why, if you're doing it for the simple reason that, oh, look, founders get a lot of attention, and I know a lot of founders who are doing it because, hey, it's a great time, investors are throwing money, let me just like go and build it. Uh, if you're doing it for wrong reasons, the chances of a startup, I think, succeeding is already so low, like maybe 1% or 2%. If you're doing it for the wrong reasons, you're basically like in the 0.000x%. Like it has to be a miracle for it to really do well. So be very, very clear about the why. And secondly, don't just think of solution. Think about like storytelling. I used to do this 10 years ago. I would talk about the solution and not about the problem. Um, if you want to especially raise money and convince your customers, I think you have to make them realize the problem. And then, like I said earlier, make sure that that problem is not like something you have to convince people is a problem. Work on a problem which is it's a clear, like clear cut problem. People understand it, and hence they're willing to take a chance on your product or on your company as an investor. um, and I think that's where I would say that, like, compared to 10-15 years ago when I was just an engineer building cool apps, and I was like, hey, look at my app, it's so cool, you can find your bar and all that. I was not talking about the problem or how big that problem was, because from investors point of view, they want to make sure that even though they may not necessarily understand the problem set, you understand it very well and break it down to them and convince them that this is at least a 10, 15, $20 billion market. There's risks involved, but it is a problem. And secondly, if you haven't built something before, then go ahead and start building. Don't just be like, look, if I raise money, then I might start building something. Just start building, because if they don't believe in your history, like what you've done in the past, if you have a product that's doing well, everyone will listen, right? Because any doubts they might have on your ability will be kind of debunked through your early traction. So just go ahead and build. Don't overthink it either. Get your users to prove any naysayers wrong, basically. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I think it's a very good approach. A lot of people tend to overthink it. A lot of people think that it's a deadlock. So when you go to the investor, they're asking for a product, but then you need money in order to build a product. So how do I get out of here? But yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Don't overthink it. There are a ton of tools that will help you do it for free. Locofy.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of no-code tools as well. Not every product requires quality of code and everything. And I think that's where today it is absolutely a fact that it's much easier. There's lesser excuses for not taking that step, but it's also more, investors and founders and even employees are much more educated about, like, and they are very picky about who they want to back or work with. So you have to be able to like answer those questions and be true to yourself.
Right. Okay. And well, as always, my last question, who do you think we should bring to the podcast next? Maybe someone you would like to listen to, or maybe, I don't know, a friend, a mentor?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's actually someone who I have been a mentor slash advisor to on the product side. But it's so weird. When I was learning how to do fundraising, or at least I thought I was not good at it, and I might still not be. There's still a lot to learn. But this founder, I've been like I have been observing him as his advisor, uh, and I think he's just like, if you talk about resilience, this guy is the guy you should talk to. He is the founder and CEO of BetterHalf.ai. It's a company that I both initially advised and then invested in a couple of times. They're trying to build like a matrimony marketplace for Indians. And if you know how Indians get married, there's like families involved and all those. So it's trying to like disrupt an industry that was kind of disrupted by Shadi.com and matrimony.com. And I think they've just raised, I mean, I don't know if I can divulge that, but they just observing how this person has gone and raised money from every individual out there, because VCs did not think it was the right time to invest. to keep his company going and to stay on track. He is, if I'm not wrong, raised $7 or $8 million from just individuals, just angels.
Oh, wow.
And it's just insane and crazy. And I feel like his story is something that people can learn from. I myself learned from someone who I've been mentoring myself. So I would love for it if he can share his story. Yeah. His name is
Perfect.
Pavan, and if you want, I can connect you with him. Yeah, of course.
Oh, yes, absolutely. That would be great. But thank you, Honey. It was absolutely amazing. I mean, I learned a lot, and like I said, I immensely enjoyed Locofy website, and will try to go there and try it for myself too. I'm still, a bit scared of anything that says code, but
Don't worry about it. On our Slack channel, you can join, and there's a beginners group. Others and our whole team is there to help you, and no question is stupid. Trust me, like we've seen people go from being DJs to now building their own apps using Locofy. So I'm sure you can also, we'll be there to help you out.
All right. Well, once I'm done exploring Mars,
Yeah.
I will I will move on to explore other tools. But yeah, thank you so much for being here. It's great, and yeah, I hope we can do it again sometime.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. Really had fun, and like I said, if anyone wants to try Locofy, Locofy.ai is where all the information is. Join our Slack channel, try the product for free, give us a call, drop an email. We'll be there to help you. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. Take care.